dun da da da, like pause for like some badass like music right here. Vincent, do you watch YouTube?
Yes.
What's your favorite channel?
The Cultivate with Courage channel.
Which one?
The Cultivate with Courage.
Why is that your favorite channel, Vincent?
Because you keep it short and sweet and get to the point.
What's been your favorite video so far?
The one about the group, I forgot what they're called.
What about green?
The group.
I forgot what it's called, but it's like, you know, okay, because I talked to you about it before. I just can't remember the name.
But what was I talking about?
Like our history, I guess.
Okay.
The Mexican history.
The Mexican history?
Yeah.
Okay. The book?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, thank you for being such a devoted and handsome looking fan.
Action.
Making money like a mint. Laying in my ice like.
Welcome to the Cultivate with Courage YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, I'm so glad that you found me. And if you like what you see, make sure that you subscribe and leave me a comment below. In today's video, I want to share my favorite podcast. I'd also like to know what your favorite podcast is. I, like everyone, am a creature of habit. I do like routine. And I have about 10 podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis, meaning at least every day. I would probably say every day I listen to, these podcasts. I typically enjoy listening to them in the earlier part of my day, and I kind of have them in this order of which they get listened to. I'm going to share with you today my top 5, and I'm going to also share why they're my top 5, and I would love to know if you've also listened to them. The fun fact is that when I was preparing for this video, I noticed that I actually have about a good 20 podcasts on my rotation list. That means I have a good 20 different shows that I'm listening to, on a regular basis, and I switch them up depending on the time of the year or the energy I'm feeling, or what I'm really looking for, or just whatever that energy or that flow is. So with that said, let me go ahead and jump right into it. When I first started listening to podcasts, not very many people that I knew had been familiar with them or listened to podcasts on a regular basis. I don't even think that I had one person in my direct circle that listened to podcasts. So I felt I was like so alone in this like secret podcast relationship with all these things. And I was just like hearing all this information, and I was just totally hooked ever since. So much so that it absolutely became part of my journey, which I will share with you later. But I've been filming podcasts since 2018. They've been around for a long time. There are probably 1 million podcasts available on every topic that you can think about. I'd like to say that the Now What podcast ranks number 1 on that 1 trillion list, but because I am all about equality, I'm gonna get real and share with you the top 5 that I am really feeling right now. I want to go back to 2018. One of the very first podcasts that I started listening to, and I still do, it's still in my top 5, is called the Biz Chick podcast. The host of the podcast is Natalie Ekdahl. It is a podcast for women entrepreneurs and small business owners. And it's all about how to be successful, how to start your own business, how to scale your own business. Like, she's a business coach, and she's developed a huge community, and I'm a part of her community since 2018. She has some great content on her podcast, and also is very, she's very authentic and relatable. She has some kids, a husband, dog. Now her brand is definitely blown up, so she has a lot larger of a presence. I'm pretty sure you may or may not have heard of her. But the Biz Chick podcast. So the Biz Chick podcast started in 2014. There are over 400 shows, and I've started listening since 2018. I was listening very heavily and kind of when I'm focusing on making a specific getting something off the ground maybe, and then I will kind of move my interest into something else. But I've definitely gotten back up. She has some great tips that I've recently picked up around social media managers, how to hire a social media agency. Definitely great educational and learning material. You're going to get, a lot of like information, resources, how-tos. This is the thing. Everybody can give you 100 free things. I'm giving you tons of information as well. It doesn't work unless you actually do something with it. So everything that, I'm going to share with you, I'm absolutely, recommending them as a source because I do think that they add value. They are definitely inspirational, relatable, and can make a personal connection. And you're really ready to up your game, whatever that may be. You do have resources that you can leverage, but you got to make it work. So again, the Biz Chick podcast is very vanilla. It's very safe. It's very everything that you think whenever you check the box. It's very cookie cutter. You're going to learn a lot. She's globally, has women entrepreneurs. She's scaled her business. So she was one of my original first podcasts that I started listening to. I have to give her credit because I still follow her and I still listen to her stuff. So check her out if you haven't heard of her yet, and let me know what you think about the Biz Chicks community. So my second podcast that I'm going to share is another oldie but goodie. It's the Side Hustle Show by Nick Loper, as part of the Side Hustle Nation. This guy also has been around since like 2013 and is now into over his 400th episode of podcast. For any of you who are interested in the life of a podcaster, what it takes, like it really is a long game. It is not a your overnight success. You have to be passionate about so many different things. He does have some good content. He has some really great guests who come on, and they share like every business that you can think of. And these are people who are like self-funding, or they've gotten this really great project and they've managed to lift it off and make money off of it. I feel like it's very authentic about the challenges and the lifestyle of a entrepreneur or a side hustler. So that is what I do like about the Side Hustle Show, is that it's very low key, doesn't make you feel intimidated or anything, gets some great ideas. You're like, hey, why didn't I think of that? But also it's very real about what the lifestyle is of a side hustler or entrepreneur. So I definitely recommend it. He has great show notes. He has great resources. He has a website. He does give you very tactical and practical information on how to, do basically what you're going to hear on the show. They're not too long. They're about, 30 to 40 minutes. Which is long when you're listening to a podcast, but they're not an hour and a half. So definitely worth checking out if you are, someone who's just like sitting on their couch all the time, always thinking about wanting to do something, but like you don't even know where to start. There are literally hundreds of different types of businesses that have been kicked off, self-funded, and have grown to, there's a couple in there, I'm assuming, that make a couple $1 million or maybe $1 million. But for the most part, they are, side hustles that have allowed people to live a comfortable life, right? So replace their 9-to-5 with either a secondary income stream or just replace their 9-to-5 altogether. If you're looking for some inspiration and some ideas, you'll find consistent content, you'll find a quality produced show, and no bells and whistles. So my third podcast is Latina to Latina. It is by Latina to Latina LLC. And that's because I feel like it is Latina for me. Like it is Latina enough for me where, it has relevant stories. The audience and the topics are around just shedding light to all of the remarkable Latinas that we have, in our country. Also, sharing their stories of the challenges that they faced and, overcoming them and what they've learned. So very much aligns with what I look for in a community, what I look for in terms of authenticity and who I want to connect with, and, who are like-minded individuals. You're going to hear from a lot of familiar voices in there. So if you come from the fintech industry, which is financial and technology industry, You're going to hear from a lot of women business leaders that are pretty well known and that you will see at a lot of, industry conferences. So that's really inspiring because you see those Latina leaders in the industry, and then, you hear their voices, which you've probably already heard their stories at the conference, but it's good to see them being supported and also, an inspiration for us. Latina to Latina, it was started in like April of 2018. They have a little bit over 100 shows. I can't really tell because they don't number their shows in their podcast, but a couple months ago they did make a note that they've had their 100th show episode anniversary. I really caught on to the Latina to Latina podcast a little bit after June, when the George Floyd protests were really erupting across our country. And as a community, Latinos really found themselves trying to understand where we fit into to the movement that we have right now. It shed perspective and knowledge and voices of people, of Latinos, on how to identify with the anti-Blackness in the Latino culture, and why, and who we are, and all of that stuff. So there were two main episodes that really hit home for me. I connected with them. They were a call to action episode. I took those call to actions personally. You're going to hear about a couple of those topics previously in my YouTube video. But when I think about inspiration, when I think about the message to Latinas in terms of what we have the responsibility to do and the power that we hold in our voice, and to stand in who we are as Latinas, Latinos, that's a wonderful podcast. My number 4 is actually a very brand new one, but it has impressed me so much that I've been putting faith and putting it out there that is going to remain in my top 10. It is We Live Here. It is a newbie, right? This is a newbie for me. I've only listened to it for a couple of weeks. I first started off with an episode on Black mental health. It is by St. Louis Public Radio. It explores issues around race, around history, around systemic oppression. It was a podcast born out of complete unrest and discourse with our government, with our entire system in the wake of the death of Michael Brown. The show has had a couple different co-hosts from what I can see. This is St. Louis saying, hey, the system, the inequalities in the systems, the racism, all of this stuff, why is it still here? And yes, national media coverage gets it. We see your fancy numbers and the data and all of this, stuff that researchers say. We're not buying it, because you know what? We live here and we know it. So why does it still exist? And not only why does it still exist, but it's really committed to healing its people as a community, which I'm so about. And there's some really, you have some doctors, you have, all types of very educated women and men who come on the show, and they talk about what are the real issues and what's really causing some of this issues, right, within ourselves. And not only that, but how can we as a community come together and support each other and unlearn a lot of things that, we have been a victim to because of our environments or whatever that have been out of our control. How do we now take control? How do we then heal? And I'm all about that. I am totally a fan. I'm subscribed. I can't wait to listen to more. I'm only one episode in and I already have this much of an opinion, but I have absolute confidence that this podcast is about it, and it is there to be a voice for St. Louis and make sure that St. Louis's voice is being heard by the people who live there, not by researchers and what America wants to see on the news and national coverage. We're at my number 1. We saved the best for last. And as much as I did not want to be on that NPR train, they got me. My favorite podcast is Code Switch. So NPR Code Switch. If you have not seen it, if you have not listened to it, if you have not heard about it, I don't know where you've been. This is the podcast that I absolutely hold to that level of, this is the type of level my show needs to be on. NPR podcast, let me tell you what it's about. They cover race, they cover music, they cover culture. They are, you know, race all up in your face. But I will tell you, the show host, which is Jean Demby and Shireen Marisol Meraji, both people of color, both very familiar with the struggle, very passionate about the topics. But I will also tell you, they are also trained journalists. Okay, so they're trained journalists. They get it. The show is highly produced. It has like 100 people that probably works on that one show. They got their fact checks in order. They got 6 different producers. They got a storyline writer, an editor. Like, it is a highly produced show. It is on a network. So you get that top level of quality content and production, which is why I say it is the gold standard in podcast in terms of production. They have a very broad audience. So I love, because the reference to music is very much about hip hop, it's about rap, it's about oldies, it's about the 70s. Like, they bring it all together. They really do bring facts, research, and talk about these issues that we sometimes don't even know how to have words to say around them. And they do it in such a great way because they make it interesting, they keep it light and funny, but they also acknowledge the seriousness of it and call it for what it is. And, you know, it's very digestible, right? It's very marketable. I think it's something that any race is going to be able to learn something from it if they would like to. And it does give both perspectives, but it's definitely about the people. And I just am all about it. So I would love to know if you listen to podcasts. If you do, have you heard about any of the podcasts that I've shared with you? If you are looking for content, I hope that you felt like I shared a little bit of everything and all of the different types of messages and resources and voices that are out there. Definitely, I love learning. I think I'm going to be a podcaster. Definitely, I'm a podcaster, but I think podcasting has definitely replaced music. Or for me, I don't even know the last time I listened to radio. If you haven't got on the bandwagon yet, on the podcast bandwagon, then you better get on it fast because you're about 20 years behind already. But I have faith. Cultivate with courage. Get it done. Subscribe to this channel. Share it with a friend. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching today's video.
Making money like a mint. Laying in my ice like shrimp. Mint condition that I'm